Well, hello there and welcome to my workshop. Now in this video I'm going to see what I can do for this old guitar. It's a guitar from a friend in the village, and she said could I have a look at it, see if, well, I can put a bit of life back into it. So I've had a quick look round and I can see some of the main problems. The first one being there's a big crack in the headstock, so that'll have to be dealt with. There's also the situation where the back is starting to come away from the ribs, so that's another thing to look at. There's a missing fret, but in actual fact it needs to be refretted because all the frets have gone. Some of the binding on the top has come away, and it looks like there's a crack that runs all the way from the bottom of the guitar through to the sound hole. So some interesting problems, but let's see what we can do. Before I start, I'm going to clean this guitar up a bit because there's quite a bit of muck and dust around, so let's hoover it out. Yeah, I think some of the threads have gone. And just noticed a bit of a major problem there. That tuner is completely bent. Unfortunately, there was no way I could bend that back without it snapping, and there's no way that I can repair that. And I noticed there's another one that's bent as well. So I've got a new one. Through the magic of video and eBay, the solution is there, except it's not that straightforward, in that the holes are slightly further apart. I don't know if you can see that. If I line that hole up there, this one's slightly out of kilter, so I'm going to have to make the holes on the guitar a little bit bigger, which is fine because these spindles are wider, a bigger diameter. And also the hole for the string needs to be in the middle there rather than on the end, so I'm going to have to drill holes in that. But I think I can do all of that, and I think the first thing I need to do is to repair this headstock. Right, so the idea is I clamp it down that way, top to bottom. Also clamp it sideways. So there's a new set of tuners with the holes drilled, all ready to go. Well, it's been just over half an hour, so let's take this off. As I suspected, that's stuck on. Okay, so I can just wipe this up a bit. Let's clean it up. Well, that looks really good. I mean, if you didn't know it was there, you wouldn't know. There's one thing that I've noticed with this guitar, and that is when I bang it, it is pretty obvious that there's something come loose inside. So there was only one thing to do, and I did it yesterday evening. And that was to take the back off, and I'm so glad that I did, to be honest with you. I should have done that right from the start. In essence, the problem is the glue. Now, I did a bit of research, and this Melodica Menges guitar probably dates back to the 1950s, 1960s, something like that. That's when they were making these guitars. And I've actually seen one on a auction site being sold for about £60, and with exactly the same patterning as this, and it's known as a parlour guitar. So I mean, it's a really lovely guitar. In actual fact, yesterday I was scraping away some of the varnish that's been overlaid on this, and that wood is absolutely beautiful. The marquetry there, I've no idea how they did that. Anyway, just coming back to the glue. The glue is old and it's gone brittle and it's coming away. And then as a result of that, some of the top is coming away. And quite a few of the ribs are coming away on the back and on the top as well. I mean, where I've glued them did work. They have glued in. So what I'm going to do is get some glue all the way around the edge there. I'm going to try and scrape off some of this glue that's gone really brittle and really force some glue in there. I think I'm applying pressure where I need it. I'm going to have to let this set overnight because this has got a lot of glue on it. The back braces have almost come off, so I think the best way to handle those is to take them off and just to re-glue them. So, got my heat gun. Right, well, I've sanded the back and I've sanded the braces so they're ready to be stuck. Okay, it's time to put the back on the guitar. So I've got the positioning right. Now this is not going to be straightforward because I'm going to have to squeeze this end of the guitar in to push this out and push this in, because it's become a little bit misshapen, let's say. Well guys, I've got a problem here, and I'm going to start again. I'm going to have to do this a completely different way because I cannot get the ribs to conform to the top of this guitar. So this is all getting a bit of a mess. So I'm going to have to take this back off again. This end of the guitar at the front here is okay. Pretty much I can clamp that down and that's going to be fine. I've done the first part here, that's glued. I've left that for about an hour. I'm now coming round. I'm just doing this side first to this point because I found it too difficult to try and get that squeezed in there as well. So I've got all this lined up, so I'm just going to let that cure, then tackle the other side. Well, I've been slowly working round this guitar, sticking the back on, and I've now got to this very end piece here. And so now I've just got to see if I can push that in. I'm just using the Gorilla wood glue. Apply the clamps to pull it the back in. Right, now this one's at a slightly different angle. Okay, so that's pulled it the back in, sorry, the ribs in I should say. Now it's a question of getting some clamps on it. I'm just going to adjust the position of this one just a little bit, just see if I can pull it in a bit more. That looks okay. Well, let's hope that that little lot of clamps is going to do the job and that this back is eventually stuck on. Doesn't look too bad. There's a bit right on the very end there which has got a gap in it, so I'm going to have to put some filler in there, I think. But essentially we've got the back on, and that's really exciting for me because I'm looking forward to doing something with this neck. I'll take one of these frets off and show you how I do it. Then I'm just going to get on and do the rest, and then I'll come back to you. So I'm going to start on this. Right, it's actually the first fret, although there is a 0 fret on this guitar as well. I've never tried to remove frets on a guitar this old, so I'm not quite sure what to expect. The fact that one of the frets has come out indicates to me that it's probably not going to take a lot to get them out, but let's go through the process. So first of all, I just warm it up with this soldering iron. The idea being that this loosens any glue that was used to fix it in, although I'm not sure that they actually glued it in. And then these wire cutters, oh look at that, that's just going to pop out really easy. Okay, well I'm going to get on with the rest. I think this is going to come off fairly easily. To be honest with you, it looks a bit grim, doesn't it? In fact, it looks to me like it's broken. Yeah, I think it is. I think that might be a bone nut, you know. It's very hard, but I don't know if you can see that, it's got a crack in it. Tiny bit of back bow, which hopefully will resolve itself once the strings are on. Otherwise it looks really good, but I'm really not happy with the surface of the fretboard there. I don't know if you can see that, but it's obviously been painted on, and well, it looks a bit rough, to be honest with you. And these dots, well, they look like plastic, to be honest with you. Not really sure. I wonder if we can do something with this. So first off, I'm going to sand it off, get all that paint off. Okay, I've taken it back to the wood, and I think I've seen enough. And a thought occurs to me is that I've got this piece of walnut here, which is quite thin, could be thinner. Why don't I use a veneer? I'm going to attempt to take a little bit off the top of this fretboard just to compensate for the width of this veneer. I'm not going to try and go the whole way down, but if I can get halfway down, that's probably good enough. Obviously that means I need to adjust the action on the guitar, but we can do that. That's not going to work, is it? Take two with a piece of wood clamp there to stop the whole lot moving forward. See if we can do it this time. So that looks like the shape of that, so I'll cut that out with a knife. I have checked the fretboard. I've scored all of the fret marks with a knife, cut it to size, So now I'm going to stick it on. Now my approach is going to be to use some tape to make sure that it's fixed in the right position once the glue's on. Then I'm going to use this block of wood to clamp the whole thing down. I've got to cut a binding channel, and I've just loaded up my router jig and realised, of course, it's not going to work because this little spindle here has to run on a piece of wood to get the right depth, and the neck just sort of disappears underneath, so can't use that. So I'm going to have to mark it and try and cut it manually. Just tidy up the channel with this little tool that I've got. I think I'm going to go round it with a knife and see if I can get as much off as I can, and then tidy it all up with a chisel. Hopefully it's not going to be too difficult to bend this. Well, I've got the wood bent into shape, I've just got to stick it down now. Well, I've got a rather convoluted clamping arrangement there. It's a real delicate balance, so I'm not going to go anywhere near it. The binding has stuck, and I've put some dust and glue in there to fill any gaps. Before I sand it all down, I think I'm going to put the dots in, and I've decided I'm going to put conventional dots in rather than just the 3 dots that were there before, because I think if whoever's going to play this guitar is likely to know more about the sort of conventional dots, it'd be easier to play. So I've got these 6mm sort of circles of shell there, or mother of pearl, so I'm going to put those in. I've marked all the positions, so let's get drilling. Just going to super glue these in. Now then, this guitar had a 0 fret, and I realised last night that I'd cut the slot a little bit skew-with, but I'm just thinking it may be a better idea if I just move the nut up to that point and just fill in this little piece here. Okay, off camera I've made a very delicate little fillet piece. I've actually used some mahogany that I found, which I think is a closer match. And the grain is running with the grain of the neck, which makes it very fragile, but I've got a nice fit there, so I'm going to glue it in, and then once it's set I can just trim it down. I'm hoping this will add a little bit of strength to the neck at the end here, because it's very thin where they've cut that slot out for the nut, but we'll see. Yeah, it's looking okay, so let's let that set. I've sanded the neck down to 240 grit, and I've put my level on it, and it's nice and flat, which is really good. So I've got all those dots in, and they're looking really smart. And I've also shaped the little insert that I put in. I've made myself a template. These are 7mm holes, and the tuners fit through those beautifully. So what I'm going to do is clamp this onto the headstock, line up the centre hole like so, and then drill through to the other two holes. That side done. Well, this fits quite nicely now, so I'm going to go and do the same on the other side. Right, well, it's coming along nicely. I think the next thing I need to do is to sand it down, clean it all off and put some oil on it before I do anything else. But I won't bore you with the sanding. I'm going to get on and do that now. And I will be back with you in a jiffy. Time to fret the guitar. I've cut all the frets to size. I've used a triangle file and gone over all of the slots just to create a little V at the top. This helps to locate the fret, and also it helps to avoid any tear out if you've got to take the fret out, which I quite often have to do, and I've got my little clippers here to do that if I need to. I've got a pen to mark the sizes. I've used this little tool here, which is a bit of a hacksaw blade stuck into a piece of wood, just to go into the slots, just to clear out any muck, and I'll do that as I go along. The only thing I need is some wood glue, just to secure these frets. This is so I can remove the tang. Then I slide the fret into this little fixture, like so, until I can see the dot come through, and I just file off the tang. There we go. I'm using a cocktail stick here just to put some glue in the slot. Locate the fret above the slot. Just put it in there if I can see it. There we go. And tap it in from the middle outwards. And then I just snip the ends off. I'm going to just take the edge of the frets off with this file. Now I'm just going to take the burr off the end of the fret there using this triangular file, and I've got one side of it smoothed off, so it shouldn't damage the fretboard. I have taped up the fretboard, and I've put some blue marker on the tops of all the frets. So now I've got this 320 grit leveling beam. I'm just going to run over it just to level the frets. I've got ink off most of these. There's a couple just there that have not been touched, but otherwise there's one there that's not been touched. Otherwise pretty good. Just using this fairly fine file with a slightly flattened edge there, just to crown the top of these frets. Okay, to polish the tops I've got some wet and dry paper just stuck onto these soft pads. So I've got 600 and 1200. So, and finally I'm just going to put a bit of this car polish on just to give them a bit of a shine. I think it's time to glue this bridge back on. I'm just going to check the measurements. Hopefully I can glue it back where it came from, and then we'll just see with the action. If we need to do something with it, then we'll do something with it. But before I can glue this bridge on, I've got to come up with a way of clamping it. And yeah, that might mean a new jig. Okay, well that took a bit longer than I thought, because I had to clean up the threads on 2 old bolts, but I have myself a fixture here for clamping down bridges. Well, this seems to have done the trick. So, yeah, see how it goes. This guitar is looking really nice. The bridge is stuck. I put some oil on again last night. It's had about 3 coats, and well, it's looking really nice. I think it's time now to fit the nut, get the tuners on, and get the guitar strung up. I'm just going to mark the size and cut that. I'm just marking the position of the nut. If you remember, I was a bit worried that I'd cut it a little bit skew width when I was cutting for the 0 fret. Well, I've just measured from the bridge, and I'm just going to score this with a knife. Now I'm using my flat pencil here to mark the height that the nut should be, or certainly where the bottom of the strings should be. I've just marked where the string position should be. And now it's just a question of cutting the slots for the strings, and I do that with a combination of these sort of needle files and these pipe cleaning files that I've stuck into bits of wood, and it's just a question of working down to the line. Unfortunately, I've noticed that these little pegs here are a bit of a mixed bag. They're not all the same peg, and I suspect perhaps some of the originals were lost. These little plastic ones I suspect are probably the originals, and these have been added. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, but we'll see if we can make these work. Well folk, you get this far in a project and you sort of hope that what you've done up to this point is going to work. So before I really do anything, what I'm doing is I've put the tuners in. I haven't even screwed them in at the moment. I've put a bass E and a top E, and I've got a note, and the action is pretty good, so that's okay. The nut needs adjusting. In fact, it needs adjusting in more than one way, but I'll come back to that in a minute. And the top E is working. Getting a bit of buzz somewhere, I'm not quite sure where, but we can sort that out. But Two problems. One is the nut. I've cut the outer two strings too close to the edge, so I need to go back to the drawing board with the nut and recut that. And I need to sort these pegs out, because the small pegs, the plastic pegs, will probably only work with the bass strings, and the bigger pegs at the moment don't go into the holes, so I need to sort that out. Now, I'm not a big fan of these plastic pegs, and I rather like these wooden ones with the inlay in the end, and I've got 4 of those. I wonder if I can make 2 more. Now, I found this piece of wood which should allow me to carve that out of it. It's about the right size. So, how to go about this? Well, I've been having a trial by mounting the wood in my pillar drill and then using a Shinto rasp to get the rough shape, and then some 60 grit sandpaper to sort of hone it down. And it seems to be working. Well, look, this is not perfect, but I think it's going to do the job. Just hope that's enough to put that piece of mother of pearl in. Okay, gently does it. Shaky hand syndrome. Okay. So here we have a string peg. So, well, I've made one, so now I'm going to try and make another. Okay, well, I've made a new nut which I think looks much nicer, and the string gaps are better proportioned, so that will fit nicely on the end there. Let's have a look at these pegs. Now, I've stained the 2 pegs that I've just made black. I'm using a small round file just to make a channel. Well, it's not pulling out, so that's a good sign. Look, I've got 4 strings on the guitar. And, well, it plays beautifully. While I'm waiting for the other pegs to dry, I'm going to just glue this nut in. I'm going to use wood glue, because I've got a little bit more control over it and I've got plenty of time for it to set, so that's ideal. And I'm going to use the pressure of the strings just to hold it in place, like so. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you are still with me, thank you very much for watching. This has been a bit of an epic video, but I was determined to do the whole of this repair, if you like, in one video rather than dragging it out over 1 week after the next. So thank you very much for watching, and please do let me know what you think in the comments below. This has been a fantastic project for me. The fact that it wasn't my guitar and I was doing it for somebody else made it really special, to be perfectly honest with you, and it's given me a lot of confidence. You know, when you hit problems with guitars like this, the best thing is to take it apart and put it back together again. And well, you don't do that lightly, I have to say. But I'm really pleased with the sound. Now, I'll be honest with you, these are old strings. I've just put them on. I've been tuning them for about the last 15 minutes, but it's got a lovely tone, and the action is really nice. But yeah, Well, there we go. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you enjoy your summer, and I'll be back soon. In the meantime, stay safe. Cheers.